Hello everybody, this is the Strategy Wolf and welcome to my new Let's Play and my very first Let's Play on YouTube. I'm here with Strategic Command American Civil War and I'm going to play this in a multiplayer round versus a good friend of mine. This is going to be a prologue episode, so we're going to talk a little bit about the basics and what I'm intending to do and where we're going to. And from the next episode on, you can definitely expect some content and some gameplay videos, but not in this very one. So yeah, I'm Strategy Wolf, it's my first video. I'm born and raised in Germany, and south of Germany, where I'm situated right now too. But I have decided to keep this Let's Play or these episodes in English, since I think that we're gonna have more interested people like from the English-speaking world, especially when we're talking about such a war or a conflict like the American Civil War. I myself, I play strategy games for the last 10-15 years of my life and love and enjoy them, mainly Forex games, grand strategy like Paradox, but also here and there I go back to these wonderful war games. Especially in the past I used to play the Operational Art of War 3, which was partially a little bit too much, but in the last years I got really access to this beautiful Strategic Command series and had tons of fun with the World War I and World War II version. This is kind of one of my first steps with this new game that came out last summer and depicts the American Civil War, but also offers scenarios, as far as I know, about the Franco-Prussian War that just came out right now, which maybe is going to be covered by my channel in the very future. But about this one, I'm gonna play a multiplayer match versus a good friend of mine, and she is absolutely no new to wargaming. However, she's a very ambitious player and for board games, and she's very ambitious and eager about winning. So I'm pretty sure she's going to research and dig really deep into this game to make it a huge success, because I think she doesn't want to lose. At the same time, I see the huge advantage and experience advantage that I got, and I really can't see myself losing. So let's really try to fight as well, and yeah, make it a really hard and tough match for the both of us. Yeah, about the game. Strategic Command American Civil War. As I mentioned, it was dropped last summer, and it's so far as the biggest map and game of the Strategic Command series, even though it depicts actually, like, geographically speaking, just the American continent, which is for sure quite huge. Yeah, I have experience with the engine, with like World War I and World War II series, but in the end, yeah, I've never fought a multiplayer game, so this is also gonna be a premiere for me. And also, in general, I'm kind of a player. I know history, I know military tactics and so on, but I play with my guts, and unlike some others, I'm not going to go into every single rule detail, even though I read the rule book and I read the strategy guides, no worries. But what you can expect from me is here's like, I'm looking at it and I'm trying to play my very best game for sure, but I'm not gonna do the research to play the optimal game. So if you're interested in something like Pro Gamer to see what is possible with this engine, you're at the wrong channel. With me, you're gonna find some nice and joyful gaming, and we'll try to have a very immersive and beautiful campaign here. Yeah, exactly. So you can expect honest gaming, passion, and increasing rivalry over time, and potentially see me getting more tense and stressed over how the game goes. And we will have a look at the map together. Okay. Here we are on this, from my point of view, kind of beautiful and huge map of Strategic Command American Civil War. Maybe let's just stroll over it a bit and have a look. As you might have imagined, we have the entirety, or at least the biggest share of the current United States on the map, going here from New England in the north, of course, down the entire coastline here, covering all the states on the East Coast. Going down here to Texas, to the Mexican border, yeah, the Midwest, and here these new Western territories at that time. But it also covers Canada in the north, at least the eastern parts, as well as Mexico, the Caribbean, in this case the Spanish possessions in Cuba, Puerto Rico, and so on, as well as French and English possessions in the Caribbean and Haiti. Exactly. Yeah, in the end, it's a huge map, and you see like we can zoom into this level, and we have kind of a hex grid. You can turn it on for a second. Normally I prefer to play without it. These are kind of the hexes we're going to play on, and as you see, it's plenty of those. But in the end, in a normal game, we won't see action happening on all of the map. As for example, alone just this big share of Mexico is basically just coming into the game once France enters on the Confederate side, which is not always very likely to happen. Yeah, about this we're gonna talk more in a second. Yeah, let's scroll a bit over this beautiful map again, that you get an impression. And yeah, as you might have noticed already by the flag up here, yeah, we are actually going to play the Confederates in this very match, against in this multiplayer match. So the Confederates, the historical losers, which makes it definitely more easier, and morally speaking, of course, it's harder to play a faction that supports slavery, but sure, we're not going to lose just for the fact of getting rid of slavery. That is not going to happen. Yeah, we're going to give our very best, and I will come to the strategy that we're going to follow in a second. Before, I want to give you a short historical overview over the situation, even though, please, especially if you're from the States and maybe you have like background knowledge on the Civil War, don't judge me too hard. I'm very interested in history. I study history, and I want to depict history in the best possible and most accurate way, but I really have not that much pre-knowledge of the American Civil War, so therefore I'm trying to just give you a very short summary what was the situation in April 61. So the US in the 19th century just got like independent, and we basically see over time a very different development of societies in an economical way in the North and the South, since the North is like by far population-wise way bigger, since it sees a lot of immigration coming from suppressed Europeans in the 19th century, and the vast share of industrialization in the 19th century takes place in the north of the US. Whilst the South is still like more mainly agricultural economies that relied heavily on the use of slaves. So we see tobacco and cotton farming mainly in the South, especially in the Carolinas around here. So in the 19th century, there was like more and more abolitionism movements in the States, which led to the first, or like at least a big law in the 1830s that banned the import of slaves to the US. And yeah, more and more the people and the politics in the US were divided about this very question. After the American-Mexican War that ended in 48, to my knowledge, the Western territories here, so Texas mainly, but also California, and these territories came under the control of the United States, which arose the huge question how they would handle these states in terms of. Oh yeah, the main point was that I forgot before that there was regulation on which states were allowed to have states and which slaves and which not, which left to the southern states basically being slave states, while the north were free states. And with these new incoming western states, it arose the huge question how to treat this, how to handle these, and what to do about these, which led to the so-called Kansas-Nebraska Act, which kind of divided the territories in which of the new ones can be settled to, but also was kind of a bad moment for the abolitionists, because it kind of allowed like slave usage in these territories through the back door, as far as understood, and led immediately to two things that were very important in the build up for the American Civil War later on. First of the first violence occurred in like 5 years from 54 to 59 in Kansas, which is known nowadays as the Kansas Bleeding, which is the group of a lot of civil riots that took place there between people that supported Kansas to be a free state, or people that wanted Kansas to be a slave state. Second, probably more important point resulted in this Kansas-Nebraska Act, which still influences us up to this day, is the foundation of this so-called Grand Old Party, which people nowadays know as the Republicans, with the first president, Abraham Lincoln, that actually came in power as president in 61, the year we're right now. And yeah, was one of the main figures in the American Civil War in the path for abolitionism. Yeah. And this is where we are right now, April 61. Of course, I'm skipping a lot of details, but I don't want to go too much in detail right now of so many politicians, and I don't want to say anything wrong at this point. Maybe I'm going to cover this on the show later. But let's go in at the point where we are right now, April 61. We already see a lot of Confederate flags here in the south, which is kind of accurate, since in 61 in January, the first state, starting with the leading state, South Carolina, started to secede from the Union and founded the Confederate States of America, which at this point still have their capital in Charleston, South Carolina, and are made up from South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Atlanta, Mississippi, Florida, Texas, and Louisiana, and so on. And at this point in the game, in the first turn, the other states haven't all decided yet. But there's going to be some for sure some more decisions which I'm coming to soon or in a second. Exactly. While the north is mainly built up from the northeast, and we see kind of the division line here. So at the beginning of the game, we can slowly have a look on the diplomacy menu. We'll see you have these three great powers from Europe over here, as well as tons of American states and Native Americans. So at this point, we can already tell you that these three would be huge game chambers if they come to the game and can only join the Confederate sides. We'll come to this later again. And there's these other American states that some of them have some probability to go to certain sides. But the only ones not really being decided is Missouri and Kentucky, whilst this is the only ones we can actually influence, I see right now, whilst the other states that are not decided by now here on the map, like Maryland, let me see this here with the blue stars, Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, Kentucky, and I think it's Tennessee. They still can. They will join the Confederates. Sorry, Kentucky is still open. These Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia are going to join the Confederates for sure, while Maryland is going to join the Union for sure. These are decided, and there's basically a diplomatic or real battleground about Missouri and Kentucky. The Native Americans, they lean to the very side that they're leaning already and grow in this. So most of those are going to lean towards the Confederates, while the Osage and the Pueblo are leaning towards the US right now. But this can be influenced and with a little bit luck turned. But yeah, most of them are also going to join the Confederates for kinda sure. Talking about the other three. At the very beginning of this game, there's going to be a Confederate decision in the first turn. At the end of this first turn is going to be the decision if you want to look for a sponsor, where you can kind of decide either to take some extra MPPs from cotton sales. For those who don't know the seed series at all, MPPs are... to be honest, I don't know the literal translation right now. Let's call it industrial or military production points. This is the kind of money or unit we're going to buy anything in this game. If it might be new units, it might be research, it might be diplomacy, it would be refreshments for a troop or upgrades for our troops. Everything has to be bought with this money or with this currency, which we can in the beginning decide for either get more for a couple of next turns if we don't want to look out for a partner, or we get less of these in the beginning and we look out for a partner where we influence one of these three strongly, that they might join later and send more MPP convoy routes that we see here already. Exactly. So there's a way to bring these into the game which will change for sure the setup dramatically. More about our strategy towards these later. Okay, let's have a little bit of overview of the potential theaters in general. So even though the border of the Confederates is here right now, knowing that these are going to CC2, we kind of like see already the main, let's say, or the most important theater of this war probably is going to be the Eastern Theater, which is here in the north of Virginia potentially, because here's going to be our future capital with Richmond, which is, yeah, there's a special mechanic in this game. So we want to keep basically the Union troops as far as away from Richmond, because we get fighting spirit bonuses for keeping them away from there, and also extra mobilization with the European great powers. So yeah, it should be one of our main targets to have a solid kind of defensive line here, or even push them a little bit far up, so we can protect here these fighting spirit objectives. Okay, for those who don't know fighting spirit, by the way, all the countries have fighting spirits, and when it goes to 0%, it will lead to the defeat, and this is actually the way to win this game. So yeah, if they manage, the US manages to take like these fighting spirit objectives, they will get a bonus, and we will get a kind of a hit. At the same time, yeah, we need Richmond to keep them away from Richmond, so our fighting spirit keeps on increasing over time. So yeah, this is one of our main fronts, or the main front. Also considering that we see here in the western parts of Virginia, not West Virginia, here east to the Appalachians, we see a couple, 1-2 mines that I would kind of, for our industrial income, would like to defend. So best case, we'll manage to push up like some kind of defense, stable this defensive line here up to the end. Like, is this the Potomac? Please let me know. I'm not 100% sure. Or at least to the Manassas River, where actually also historically speaking, the first battles in this war occurred. For example, the first battle of Bull's Run is supposed to be somewhere in this area at the Manassas. Yeah. So this is going to be one of the essential fronts, and yeah, here's going to be a lot of stuff is going on. Here in the west of West Virginia, probably can't defend really seriously, since the Appalachians are really making things very hard here. Almost no roads over here, very tough terrain, so supply is going to be very difficult in this area. Let's see. Kentucky, this is the Midwest, or the mid here, like let's say in the east of the Mississippi River, is going to be the other essential front line in this very game or scenario, since yeah, the state of Tennessee is going to shift for sure to us, and a similar rule applies to Nashville than to Richmond. So the great powers mobilize, plus we get extra fighting spirit if we keep this one, or if they can't come closer than 4 hex to Nashville, which would be like here, I guess. So we kind of want to keep a defensive perimeter and help keep them away from Nashville. And also, best case, we can try to, before they build up a like strong force here, when Kentucky enters the war on which side soever, it would be very nice to profit from the like not like empty lands and push a little bit into, and take up sweet positions in Kentucky already and secure as much as possible. So yeah, this is going to be very, very interesting here, since yeah, we can also expect for sure then attacks from the Union side here on Nashville. I don't know where this is leading to, but yeah. And in the west, we have for sure the entire Mississippi River. We have river boats. We can there can be naval invasions. So who knows how soon we're gonna see Union troops landing somewhere here. But in the end, this is gonna be a thing. But the west itself, I don't know if there's gonna be so intense battles. Here's gonna be Indians. I guess we can act a little bit with cavalry and so on. Oh yeah, Missouri. Let's get to Missouri. It's like highly likely it joins the Union, and they even get an event where they get event troops where they could march in and invade it, so definitely prevented from seceding, and where Kentucky gets a little bit of a penalty on relations, so it actually would profit us if we want to go for Kentucky diplomatically. So yeah, I assume, and also the tip in the event tells to do it, so I assume that the opponent is also going to do it and will definitely take over the minimum the north of Missouri. Maybe with some border troops we can manage to get good positions down here, but in the end, yeah, there's not so much to get, and I don't assume here's going to be the huge chunk of the fights, but who knows. Yeah, and apart from these western territories, we have here really the Rocky Mountains up in New Mexico is probably gonna be, I think I'm gonna get some, or the Confederacy gets some troops, we can send them via here or by wind. So we could potentially push up here a little bit in New Mexico, maybe. I guess it's like highly unlikely that it's possible to push even up here to Denver, which would be fantastic, since from Colorado most of the supply lines from the western states, so convoy routes that give extra MPP to the Union, come from here to the east. But yeah, let's see. Given the fact that it's a very, very narrow valley here, and apart from this, just like mountains, and yeah, it should be easy for the Union to kind of defend this bottleneck, or even if they get Apache support, Anyways, I don't expect great gains here, only if the opponent is very careless or doesn't realize that the threat that could come from here. So let's see what happens. And yeah, as a very last theater, for sure, there's to mention is the coastline, since our coastline, and this is a big problem, is very, very long and therefore very vulnerable to invasion, even though we have these coastal forts everywhere. I have no experience, but from what I read and so far, it should be very easy to take them out with submarine infantry. So yeah, and we're for sure not going to have enough troops to defend every of these with extra troops. So we have to look out and think about which are the key points that we definitely want to defend and where we put on an emphasis on. Because in the end, speaking as the Confederates, to get to the overall point, which kind of determines our strategy, we are vastly inferior in everything. We have a smaller army, less research. So in this research area, we have a maximum of 3,000 MPP to spend, whilst the Union can go, I think, up to 4,800 or something like this. So we will always have to pick carefully what kind of technologies we want to invest in, while the North can go way wilder in this one. We have less ships, so there's from my point of view, no realistic chance that we have a shot will fight the US Navy, apart from some maybe we'll try to get some strong ships or early submarines to harm them if they come too close, and give them some hard that help our defenses of key points, and that will help us in putting up some pressure. Or deal more damage, or force her to invest more into the Navy. That's some kind of thinking that could happen. But yeah, in the end, really the only thing we're superior is the fighting spirit later, with the bonuses, even if it doesn't look like this right now, with the bonus from Richmond, since now we can go up to 125, while the US are only at 100,000. So yeah, the idea must be, so in the end, to defend cleverly, to cause pain wherever possible, and keep them from taking as many FS objectives as fast as that they can get in as low as possible for us. So we, in the end, their fighting spirit goes down faster than they would win over us. And there's winning conditions. We can have a look. This should be here, no? Victory conditions, yeah. Sure, if we fall below 10%, it's a major victory. On the other hand, we have these, this. We can also gain victory by conquer or hold these kind of hold these cities by the December of 65. So actually, there's not even the main target for us to or even if though I feel like. For sure, if we conquer Washington, for sure there's going to be a big blow to the fighting spirit. But in the end, you'll see, in the end, it's a very defensive setup. For us, it's not about conquering huge shares of territory. Of course, when I see chances, I will consider and always also conduct offensive operations. But in the end, it's going to be very defensive. We're trying to maybe perform hit-and-run tactics, everything we can to slow her down and to somehow keep up. And yeah, best case, we're gonna end up with some major European power as a partner, which I strongly doubt. Bringing us already to my kind of strategy thinking coming up for the next turn. Since I'm very new to this game and I want to see the Civil War in a kind of historical setup, or don't want to handle too much, I'm going for the option not to call any of the European partners as sponsor, taking the extra MPPs, but doesn't mean I'm gonna fully neglect them. Maybe I'm gonna invest here and there because the support is growing anyways, and with more support, I'm also getting more MPPs from them if they're not being blockaded, an element that I totally forgot about so far. But we'll see this anyways for sure, and yeah. So I don't want to exclude it. Also, don't want to see her not invest in diplomacy. So I'm happy for every anxious wasted investment of the union, so they can use less of the huge MPP advantage they're gonna have over time. Yeah. So in the end, that's kind of what we're up to, and I'm quite excited. Please stay with me, and I would love to see continuous audience. Even though at this point I can't promise if there's a real upload schedule in the beginning, because I'm new to this and I'm doing it part time, so I need to get used to it. But I'm sure I'm getting better over time. So please stay with me if you're interested, and yeah, see you in the first episode coming up very, very soon. Thank you for listening, and yeah, see you soon. Your Strategy Wolf.